Good morning. Welcome to episode 117 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop where I sell my hand-spun yarn and other products, and that is called The Corner of Knit and Tea. And we also have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Tuesday, December 27th, and this is my second time recording the podcast. The first time I managed to record without sound. You may notice a few different things today. The first is that I am in our living room with the Christmas tree. That is because my nephew has been sleeping in my craft room, and he is at grandma's for a few days, but he is going to come back this week, so I did not rearrange everything back. The second is that I have a new camera. My husband bought me a new camera for Christmas, and so I am testing it out with a new video camera. I got a Q8 Zoom, and so far it is fun to use. I did record an entire podcast without sound, so there's that. But we're gonna hope second try through is the charm, so let's get started. Let's see, I talked about the holidays. I hope that you had wonderful holidays if you celebrate, or you have just been enjoying some quiet time off work and with family. Our holidays were pretty good. We had my in-laws here and my nephew, and there was lots of food and games and laughter and of course some presents. I got some knitting books, and I got a set of Marbles double-pointed needles, which had been on my wish list, so that was very exciting, and also the camera. So let's dive right in. I am drinking today. It is Harney and Sons Autumn Cranberry, or Cranberry Autumn. And it is black tea with orange and cranberry. And today I'm just drinking that in a plain mug. It was just one I grabbed out of the cupboard. And the other thing that you missed about the first time was I knocked it over the first time into the carpet. But my husband doesn't know that, and he's downstairs. So this is a second cup of tea for a second podcast. And that is delicious. It's perfect for the holidays. I have drunk this one before. I think I bought it last year around the holidays. But I also just really like the tin. So that is the tea that I'm drinking today. So I have all kinds of exciting things to talk about. The first thing, and you may have already heard about it because I did post about it yesterday. Yesterday, I released a new pattern. I had talked about how I had been working on new patterns, or a new pattern and a variety of samples for that pattern. And the pattern is called Snug as a Mug, and it is a mug cozy for the Starbucks mug. This fall and Christmas time, Starbucks did a create your own tumbler. The plastic piece comes off. You have the tumbler underneath, and some other knitters, I actually got the idea from some other knitters, but they knit cozies for theirs. So I bought a bunch of tumblers and knit a bunch of cozies out of some yarns that I had. And prototyped a variety of different stitch counts and sizes and whatnot, and turned it into a pattern. It is available for $1.99 on Ravelry, and if you don't want to worry, it's basically kind of a sock for your knitting, and then it's closed at the bottom, but if you don't want to worry about stitch counts and lengths and those kinds of things, I have figured that out for you. It takes about 15 to 20 grams of a fingering weight yarn. You can use your sock leftovers, or if you get some mini skeins, some of the dyers have been selling mini skeins that are 20 grams. That is totally enough to do one of these. And so I went ahead and did a bunch of different kinds. This is Opal, sweet and spicy in the saffron colorway. And so basically I knit the sleeve, and then you just put the plastic part back on the tumbler and seal it in, and it is ready to go. So the pattern obviously is for how to knit your own cozy for your mug. And then I also have several of the mugs that I did up as samples, and those are listed in the shop. There is this one, and then there is this one. This is Knitterly Things Vesper, and it is in the Sweetheart colorway. I thought that might be fun for Valentine's Day, so it is white and red and pink striped. And then the other one that I still have left in the shop is Aunt Gigi. This is Show Me Yarn Boot Heel Base. I knit socks out of this earlier this year and thought it was a fun striping yarn. So those are up in the shop right now. I have about half a dozen more mugs that I will be crafting sleeves for and putting them up in the shop. So if you do not want to knit your own and just want to purchase, they are available in the shop. A quick note about shipping in the shop. Normally my shipping is pretty low because I can send skeins of yarn don't weigh very much, and they don't need a lot of packing because they are soft and squishy. The mugs themselves require packing in boxes and some bubble wrap because they are not super heavy, but they are not super light either. So part of the reason that shipping in the shop is a little bit more expensive on those is because I need to send them in boxes. In the US, it is also offering them at priority mail rate versus regular package rate. And international, I am sorry, they are super expensive to ship international. I have Etsy set up to basically calculate shipping as exactly what it costs. I've only added 50 cents in there for my boxing and bubble wrap supplies. So shipping is unfortunately what it would cost me to send it overseas. I do apologize that it's so expensive, but there's just not much I can do about that these days. So that is the difference in shipping on these only. Everything else remains the same as before. So if you are interested in one of those, please come visit the shop, or if you are interested in making your own, like I said, the pattern is Snug as a mug, and that is available on Ravelry now. So that is primarily what I have been doing over Christmas, is crafting those, but that was a lot of fun, and I'm going to crank out a few more of those to go in the shop. The other thing that I finished is my Cozy Memories blanket. This is the Cozy Memories blanket. I have been working on it since late 2015. It is a pattern by Georgie Nicholson called the Cozy Memories Blanket. And the way I did mine is I did mine in a combination of worsted and fingering weight squares. And I used a size 5 needle. I either used worsted weight or I held fingering weight doubled. And my squares are 20 stitches by 20 stitches. And then I just did knit together an SSK around the center of the square, so it creates that mitered square, and all of my mitered seams are going in the same direction. To finish it off, I added an I-cord border that is Cascade Heritage, held double. It is a 3-stitch attached I-cord border, and I just wanted to give it kind of a nice edge to finish it off. So this has been a labor of love, but I decided that I was ready to move on from it. One of the most fun things is of the 121 squares, they are all different yarns. They represent projects that I have done, hand spun, or various yarns that I have traded for or used in projects, and every single one of them is a different colorway. So that was kind of fun. I started out with that as a goal, and then I wasn't sure how big it was going to be or if I could do it. But since I limited the size, it was pretty easy to do. It is about a 40 by 40. I haven't taken complete finished measurements yet. I will need to do that and photos, but my normal photo areas are my craft room and the guest bedroom, and both are occupied at present. So I will be doing that in the coming week and adding photos to Ravelry, but it is done and I am super excited. It is roughly a lap-sized blanket, so I have been using it on the couch when it has been chilly, and as soon as I take photos, I will be happy to use it more. You know, it's one of those things where I'm sort of trying to make sure that I take all the photos and get everything perfect before I actually start using it so that I have a good photo documentation. So that is the Cozy Memories blanket, and it was a goal when I picked it back up for Advent to put on squares. It was a goal to finish it. I knit 20 squares, which finished out the blanket through December 20th, and then I went ahead and spent a couple days knitting the I-cord border on it, and I actually finished it on Christmas Eve. So it has been done and finished, and I am super, super happy with it. So that is my second finished object. So let's talk about what is on the needles. I did cast on for a Christmas Eve cast on, and I cast on a pair of socks. I showed you the yarn last week, and I did not actually get super far because I ended up getting distracted by a different project, but we'll get there. This is Jinx Yarns, and it is in her Strong Sport, and the colorway is Gingerbread House. And as I said last week, I wasn't exactly sure what order. It's stripes, brown, white, and then it's like a speckled section that has red and yellow and green and a little bit of purple, and I didn't even finish that section. And then the top is actually a quarter skein of coordinating yarn. In her sport weight, it is called Baby Pink, and it just coordinates nicely. So that will be the cuffs and heels, definitely probably toes as well. I just have to see how much of that is left. And that is my Christmas Eve cast on. I did not get super far on it because I was sort of carried away with another project, but I do want to knit these. This is a sport weight yarn, so I cast on 56 stitches on my US 1 signatures. That's 2.25. Those are some of my favorite sock needles, and so I will be working on these this week, definitely, because I would like to finish these in the next couple weeks. So that is my Christmas Eve cast on, and it is living in my stashing all the way bag, and it will probably continue to live it out there, and then I will put the bag away for another year. Who doesn't love mustaches? A friend of mine said that I should use the bags all year round. Maybe I should, but I like pulling them out for holiday projects. So that is one holiday project. And the second thing that I cast on was another scrappy blanket. I had said that I might do that. I had been watching the craze of granny square blankets or granny stripe blankets. I know Love Sock Wool is doing one, Little Bobbins Knits is doing one, and I had seen a ton of other podcasters sort of starting those, and I still have plenty of scraps. So I decided to go ahead and start one for myself. So this is as far as I have gotten, which is actually pretty far for me because I don't crochet super well. I'm mostly a knitter. I taught myself to crochet a little bit so I can do it, but it is certainly not my first craft. Anyway, this is my stripey blanket. I am having fun adding in all the leftovers from other things or the minis that I didn't actually get to put into that blanket because I finished it. But this is really sort of making my heart sing right now, so I am enjoying it. I am using Lucy Attic 24's Ripple Blanket. I actually borrowed a cast-on number from another Raveler who was looking to make a pretty decently wide blanket. I started with 283 crochet chains, so it's going to be a fairly wide blanket. And this one is going to take me a long time, although I do have a few probably 4 or 5 inches from the last couple days, but my assumption is that my fascination will wear off eventually, and this will sort of be a long-term project that gets put down and picked up. But so far, it seems to be all I want to work on. And I am using magic knots. I used a magic knot tutorial. I am actually not clipping the ends on my magic knots. That makes me a little bit nervous. So what I have been doing is just using the magic knots. You can see here, using the magic knot, and then I will take a tapestry needle and just weave in the ends and just leave them in there. But I don't find the knots particularly bothersome. You just have to be a little careful as you're doing that particular crochet stitch when you come to it. But I am finding it a great way to use up scraps, and I still have plenty of scraps. I did not get through them in that other blanket, and I also have a lot of very tiny scraps, so this is a great way to use those up. And I left off on this purple up here, so I brought all my scrappy things out here, and I have some mini skeins that I never even broke into, and so I am super excited to do these and also to use some of the other things I've been breaking into for the mugs. So that is my scrappy blanket for 2017, even though I couldn't wait till 2017 to start it. So that is what I'm working on right now. Other things that I hope to work on in the next couple days, I still need to get back into my craft room and wind some yarn. I'm itching to cast on another sweater. I have a couple other sweater quantities that I got at Rhinebeck, and in particular I have an Aran weight sweater that I would love to knit. The weather around here has been kind of crazy. A week and 2 days ago, so not Sunday 2 days ago, but Sunday a week and 2 days ago, it was below zero and absolutely bitterly cold. And I did not want to be outside at all. This week, while my nephew was here, and for Christmas, it actually warmed up to 60 degrees, which is kind of crazy. We opened the windows in the house and aired the house out, and it was fabulous. And now it is back to the 30s and 40s this week. So I am still interested in knitting another sweater before the sweater season is over. So I need to pull that yarn down and wind it and get started on that. I actually bought the yarn at Rhinebeck with the sweater pattern in mind, and I own the sweater pattern because I have tried to knit it once before. So that is something that I will be looking to cast on. And then the other thing that I'm hoping to cast on is this yarn. A lot of these I used scraps from my sock yarn collection. This one actually is a skein of yarn that a friend sent me to knit socks for Miss Roxy. And she actually sent it to me before Miles was born. But since I broke into it for this, and it didn't require very much of this, or it didn't require very much yarn for this, I plan to knit socks for Roxy and Miles for Valentine's Day. So I want to get on those so I can send those up there a week or two ahead of time so that they sort of have them for Valentine's Day. So that is another thing that I plan to cast on in the coming week. I don't have spinning talk for today. That is because mostly I have not been spinning. You may notice we're in the living room with my Christmas tree. The Christmas tree takes up a huge part of the living room, and we also had, like I said, my in-laws and my nephew, and so there just hasn't been room for the spinning wheel. I did bring out my e-spinner. I didn't spin over Christmas. I did start a spin last night, and we'll probably work on it a little bit more today. I am working on the Corriedale cross for my hap shawl, so that is not super exciting. I spun up 2 ounces yesterday, so I still have 10 more ounces of that to spin up and then get it plied. So I'll probably work on that in the next week or so. I haven't decided when to pull down the Christmas tree. Usually I pull the Christmas tree down around New Year's Day, but of course we will have people here next weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to pull it down that weekend or a few days after, and I don't know exactly when my spinning wheel will come back. So probably one more podcast without too much interesting spinning, and then I've already selected some braids for the new year, and I will be participating in spinning down my stash with the Woolly Wonka Fibers podcast, as I talked about a couple weeks ago. So I am excited to get spinning and get a few more things in the shop too. So let's see. I'm trying to remember what I covered in the first podcast and what I need to cover in the second podcast. The Ravelry group. We are coming to the end of the gift along that was Knit Something for Someone Else between November 1st and December 31st. December 31st or January 1st, I will close that thread. I will draw for a few different prizes, and I'll probably announce that on Ravelry, but I can also announce it on the podcast here. But since that's a Ravelry centered knit along, craft along, I will probably announce the prizes over there as well. That brings us to January. By the time I next record, it will be January. And I usually do a selfish craft along in January. The rules are pretty much the same as for the gift along. WIPs, works in progress, as long as you are doing some portion of the work on them in January, that is fine. All crafts, knitting, spinning, weaving, crocheting, sewing, those are all applicable. The only rule this time is, now that you have spent the Christmas season crafting for other people, and you have cooked and cleaned and had Christmas, it is a time to craft something for yourself. At least in the Northern Hemisphere, January and February are a little bleak around here. It is winter, it is cold, the trees are bare, the days are kind of gray. So January is a time for me when I like to craft something that I just want to spend a little time on for myself. It can be cozy, it can be something to keep you warm. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it can be something to keep you cool. It should just be happy and bring you joy and be for you. That will run January 1st through January 31st. There will also be prizes for that one. So think about what you might like to craft for the Selfish Craft Along. I will open that on January 1st, and we can have a chatter and a finished objects thread and do that one. So I think that is all I wanted to tell you for today. I hope that you have had a wonderful holiday if you celebrate. Regardless of if you celebrate the Christmas or Hanukkah holidays, we are coming up on the end of the year, and I know 2016 has been kind of a rough one for a lot of us. I hope that you are able to end out the year in peace, and that you start your 2017 full of happiness and joy, and that you have a healthy and wonderful 2017 full of crafty goodness. And I won't speak to you again until we are in the new year. I'm not sure when I will record again because I will have house guests again, so one more week of kind of being off schedule, and then we will get back into the swing of things in the new year. So I will say, as I always do to you, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.